Hey, future Junior Bills, Mr. Muskoff, the athletic director here at St. Louis U High. While we'd love to have you on campus and have you see some of these athletics-related facilities in person, it's not the time to do that, so we thought we would bring you a video that focuses on and highlights all of the facilities used by athletics here at St. Louis University High School. We're right now in the Donny Fieldhouse, but the first area I want to focus on is part of the building that's to my right outside. It's our academic building, but on the bottom level, there's a hallway that starts at the south end of the building and goes all the way to the north end of the building. And that hallway has about 4 spaces used by athletics. On the north side is our rifle range. We have a rifle program that has upwards of 35 student athletes participating. The program just celebrated its 75th year. We will look to reschedule the banquet we had for this spring to gather alumni and celebrate the storied history of that program. As you move farther south along that hallway, you next come into contact with our fitness areas. We have 2. They're right across the hall from each other. On one side is our weight room. On the other side is our David Jackson Strength and Speed and Explosion room. That is our newest fitness space on campus. And while it may look like an empty room, it's a multi-purpose training center. No weights located in there, but we do have things like stretching rails and TRX straps and med balls and kettlebells and things that give our student athletes a variety of ways to train and keep their fitness level as high as possible. And then lastly, as you come out that hallway on the very south end of our academic building, you see our student athlete locker room. Now on this side of the sidewalk in the Donny Fieldhouse, we have several areas used by athletics. First, over my shoulder here, the glass doors that you see behind me, that is our wrestling room. That space is used for wrestling practice all throughout the winter season. Right below me is our athletic training room that's located in this structure, and right above me are coaches' offices. Down on court level, we also have 2 locker rooms for our teams, and we have 1 locker room to be used by visiting teams. This building gets used in the winter by all 4 of our basketball teams, 2 freshman teams, a sophomore team, and a varsity team. When we have wrestling competitions, the mats are set up on the floor, and we hold those competitions here in this building as well. In the spring, this facility is the home to our boys volleyball program, freshman, JV, and varsity. But what's great about this facility is that in cases of inclement weather, when it's too rainy or there's lightning and thunder outside in the fall or in the spring, we can bring those teams inside. We can pull these bleachers back in and have a huge space for teams to practice. While it's not exactly like being outside on a baseball field or a football field or a soccer field, our teams can absolutely have very high quality practices in this indoor space, and even with the curtain that can drop to separate the back court from the front court, we can get 2 different programs in here for practice at any one time. All right, so we've moved our facilities tour outside, and we're now on the south side of our entrance driveway right near the Drury Plaza. Here over my right shoulder you see our newest turf field. This turf was replaced in the summer of 2018, and this is the home for our soccer program in the fall. We have a freshman team, a sophomore team, a junior varsity, and a varsity. And while they all can't practice here on a day-to-day basis, they do play their games on this field. This facility is also home in the fall to some running done by our cross-country team, but predominantly in the spring, our track and field program. Now, this Drury Plaza area incorporates some other sports too. In the spring, our rugby program uses this turf for its practices. And baseball, if our grass field is too wet, will utilize this field for some practice right after school. When the weather's great like it is today, baseball will use the field over my left shoulder, Sheridan Stadium, for varsity practices as well as games played by our freshman and our sophomore team. While the facilities we have on campus are excellent, with 19 sports, we're not able to have facilities for every sport on our campus proper. We are blessed, however, to have areas near campus that we can use to minimize the amount of travel for our student athletes as they go to practices and competitions. One of the facilities very close to campus, over my shoulder here and behind the Science Center parking lot, is Compton Drew Middle School field. That field is used in the fall for our freshman soccer practice as well as some other levels of soccer practice when our freshmen may be on the turf for a game. In the spring, Compton Drew's field is the home of our freshman lacrosse team. Over my left shoulder, you can see some red brick buildings in the distance. At the top of the hill is Forest Park Community College, and one of those red brick buildings up there is their swimming pool. We're fortunate to have access to that swimming pool very close to our campus in the fall for use by our swimming and diving program, and in the spring for our water polo program. Another space that we have very close to campus that we're blessed to use for several of our sports is Forest Park. If you look down this driveway, you can see that there's a passageway under Highway 40 that gets our student athletes safely from campus over into the park for a variety of sports. Over in the park, we use running trails for cross country in the fall and our distance runners for track in the spring. We use Dwight Davis Tennis Center for our tennis program in the spring. We use the Forest Park golf courses, driving range, chipping and putting areas for our golf team in the spring. There are two baseball fields located just on the other side of Highway 40 in the aviation field strip. We use those for freshman and sophomore team practices and games throughout the spring. On occasion, rugby will use some of the grass fields in the park for their contests. And now we're back on campus on the north side of our entrance driveway at the only outdoor athletic venue that was actually here on campus when I was a student in the late 80s and early 90s. Of course, we did not have turf on the field back when I was here, but we do now. This turf field gets used in the fall for football, both practices and contests for all levels. In the spring, it gets used for JV and varsity lacrosse practices, contests at all levels of lacrosse, rugby contests, and ultimate frisbee contests. So we've hit on several of our sports that participate on campus or very close to it. There are a few sports for which we just don't have, other than strength and conditioning facilities, those sports to be able to have practices and contests on campus. And those are, in the winter, racquetball, and in the winter, ice hockey, and in the spring, inline hockey. That's our tour of the St. Louis University High School campus for our athletics facilities.